Let's go across to results now. Pidilite, the management, Bharat Puri really needs no introduction. He's joining us. So if you could just first start by the demand side of the market, how are you seeing the demand shaping up, considering price hikes, considering how things are moving? How would you look at the mini lockdowns impacting the overall demand?
See, it's very difficult to say. What we've seen consistently is that the pandemic, as it increases in intensity, obviously demand continues to go down. I think we are close to the peak, hopefully. And pretty much, I would say about 70% of the country now is under lockdown. So obviously demand is impacted. Will it spring back soon? Frankly, there are greater experts, there are better epidemiologists than me who can predict this. But we are hopeful that as and when demand comes back as an organization, what we can do is be prepared. And that's what we are doing.
So, some of your products and brands have really done well. What has been the performance over there in terms of movement and how you have seen it?
See, what we're seeing ever since the close of the first quarter, obviously last year, the first quarter was substantially impacted. After that, we've seen a gradual comeback in demand. Demand first came back in the rural areas, then in the small towns, then in the medium-sized towns, and finally in the metros. And why quarter four has seen such robust growth is that everything has been firing. So whether it is the metros, whether it is the big towns, whether it is the small towns, and whether it is rural, all four have been doing extremely well. And demand has been therefore very strong. Now, will that come back? I think structurally, given the investments that we're going to see in home building as well as home improvement, given the pent-up demand, we do believe it will come back, but it will be directly proportional to the decrease in the intensity of the pandemic. As the pandemic goes away, demand will become strong.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Puri. This is Mubin as well joining. And, I think I must ask you about the commodity inflation pressures that's being witnessed. What's the rise in raw material prices you witnessed, especially in the vinyl acetate monomer prices or VAM prices? And will you be taking more price hikes? What's the situation now like?
See, this year, in fact, in the last 6 months, we have seen an unprecedented rise in raw materials. In our belief, this is not due to demand-led situations or demand-led conditions. It is because of supply constraints. You had these massive winter storms in the US, which closed down Texas. Europe, that used to buy from the US, therefore started buying from Asia. Asia also had some major plant shutdowns. In our belief, this is not a permanent situation. We do believe that input prices, especially that of VAM, which is vinyl acetate monomer, which is our principal raw material, this will definitely start moderating in the second half of the year. We've taken some pricing, but we've taken pricing currently at 75% of inflation because we believe that it's not fair for us to pass on all of the price increase because we do believe that it will moderate in the second half.
All right. Mr. Puri, that means could we expect some more margin pressures perhaps in this, in this fiscal FY22?
We have definitely, which is what we've also called out in our press release, we will see some pressure on margins. We always manage margins in a band. We normally manage margins in a 20 to 25% band. And we will obviously, in 1 or 2 quarters, it may go above or below. As for example, last year when raw material prices were benign, it went above. But on a yearly basis, that's the range we want to manage within. And that's what we shall attempt to do.
Can you talk to us about the changes in raw material prices? How do you see it impacting the overall space, the overall demand and margins, if any?
See, in our case, we always are consistent. Finally, we must offer substantial value to the customer. And therefore, we keep moderating, looking at our policies to reflect that. So whether it's our incentives for the trade, whether it is incentives for the users, these are much more long-term in nature. What we try and do is obviously if demand conditions are depressed, we try and make sure that we're supporting the trade via whether it is now in the case of a lockdown, better credit conditions for users. It is can we convert their loyalty points into cash so that, they don't have issues as they go forward. So for an organization such as ours, this is a dynamic process which continues.
So given the current scenario and the sharp inflation, do you expect to gain market share from smaller players then?
See, it is clear if you look at our growth rates over the last 9 months that the market has not grown at these rates. So clearly we have gained market share. What we did really is when the pandemic happened, we focused on what was within our control. So point one, first, look after the safety and security of your people. Make sure that the culture that you're building is an inclusive and caring culture, which helps people feel protected. For example, all through the year, we've actually added people. We've not let anybody go. Secondly, we invested substantially in our supply chain to increase both capacity and service. So in the last 1 year, 6 new plants have been expanded. 1 has been set up. As we speak, Pidilite is setting up 10 new plants across the country. 10 warehouses have been upgraded or opened or have increased space. So what we've wanted to do is what is in our control, the whole case of digital. We've now substantially upped our game as far as digital is concerned. Every Pidilite salesperson is digitally equipped. He actually uses analytics for intelligent selling. His performance he can track on his tablet on a daily basis. We're able to obviously help him do that. So what we've done is we've focused on what is within our control. Over a period of time, therefore, brands that are trusted, brands that are more responsive, which have an all-India supply chain, in a situation like the pandemic will gain. So we do believe we have gained market share.
Okay, talk to us about the waterproofing segment. What's the growth expectation there given the low penetration?
One of the segments that we saw the quickest bounce back was waterproofing, largely because that's something that can't wait if you have repair and renovation to be carried out, or if you have construction that is being carried out, the construction is incomplete without waterproofing. Even now, waterproofing penetration in India remains abysmally low. Pretty much 4 out of 10 homes that are built in India do any proper form of waterproofing. So really the headroom for growth is high. As new construction comes back, as people look at another good monsoon and look at repair and renovation, this is one segment that we believe has got a lot of runway for growth.
So Pidilite has always had a mantra of focusing in on profitable volume growth. What will be the focus area for Pidilite in the next year? Where do you see the growth drivers coming in for the company?
See, we are very clear. In this pandemic, we have a simple 3-step mantra. First and foremost, safety, security, well-being of our people. Second, agility and responsiveness across the system. So whether it is supply chain, whether it is service, whether it is innovation, digital, all of that, in a sense comes in that. And the third is we keep looking and making sure that we're investing for profitable volume growth. We keep looking at volume growth. So hopefully, as the pandemic eases, we will go back to looking at substantial volume growth. If you look at, for example, rural and small town India, last year we have added about 60,000 new outlets. We've actually, while people may have actually rationalized in rural and small town, we've added people. We've added about 600 new sub-stockists. We've actually now expanded our reach right up to villages up to 5,000. So, as far as we're concerned, we're clear. Our mantra is profitable volume growth, and we will keep pursuing that. And obviously keep adjusting our strategy to the current context, the current environment.